You know, we always think of knowledge as this shining path to enlightenment, but what if it's a path to something, well, something much, much darker? Today, we're diving into a parable where the grand prize for knowing everything isn't wisdom, it's absolute soul-crushing despair.
And this right here, this line, is the heart of the entire story. It just immediately sets this deeply unsettling tone, and it introduces the central paradox we're going to be unpacking. The idea that the relentless search for truth is actually, in the end, the path to ruin.
So, let's set the scene. Our story kicks off in this grand, beautiful library, a place that's supposed to be a bastion of reason and order. And our hero, the master librarian, he starts off with this really noble goal, to catalog everything, to solve every last mystery and put it, bound in leather, neatly on a shelf.
This slide just perfectly nails the central conflict. On one side, you've got the librarian's worldview, the belief that logic can conquer anything. But on the other side, well, that's the cosmic reality he's about to stumble into. That his entire world of knowledge is just this fragile, tiny, lit-up room floating in an endless, unprintable, and totally incomprehensible darkness.
Okay, so this is where the journey takes its first really dark turn. The very foundations of the librarian's logical, ordered world, they're about to crack.
Now, it doesn't start with some big monster or a loud bang. No, it starts with something small, something that's just deeply wrong. Imagine reaching for the oldest, most profound books in the library, only to see the ink itself warping, bleeding into these ancient alien patterns that you know for a fact no human hand could have ever made.
And this gives us a name for the threat. See, it's not just chaos, it's a completely different and, frankly, terrifying kind of order. The term is non-Euclidean. So think about it this way. All the basic rules of reality we learn, like a straight line is the shortest path between 2 points, suddenly that's just not true anymore. The laws of his world aren't breaking, they're bending into a new, horrifying shape, curving like the impossible stones of some ancient sunken tomb.
And this leads him to this horrifying concept called the Great Filter. But here's the twist. It's not about nuclear war or climate change, it's about intellectual self-destruction. The theory is that the very act of becoming smart enough to ask the biggest questions, well, that guarantees your doom, because the answers themselves are absolutely lethal to a finite mind. Your little lantern of inquiry only serves to reveal the gargantuan shadows that see you as less than dust. And this is the moment of pure academic horror. An ancient, terrifying myth, something he calls the call. It stops being folklore. For our poor librarian, it becomes a verifiable, repeatable result. It's a constant that just keeps showing up in his equations, an unavoidable truth that's literally woven into the fabric of reality. And that's when his curiosity turns into this paralyzing existential weight.
So now that he's found the horror in his books, the librarian starts to look outward, and the scale of his discovery just explodes, going from the confines of the library to the entire cosmos.
That feeling of wonder you get when you look up at the night sky? Imagine that feeling flipping, becoming pure dread. The stars are no longer beautiful points of light, but the cold, unfeeling eyes of a vast, empty void that is just utterly, completely indifferent to him and all of humanity. And here it is, the philosophical bombshell he uncovers. Cosmicism. It's the final, logical conclusion of all his research. And it says that humanity isn't special. We are not the heroes of this story. At best, we are an insignificant footnote in a cosmic history book written by incomprehensible and maybe even insane alien forces that operate way beyond anything we can see.
Which leads him to this really tragic irony at the heart of his life's work. Every single breakthrough doesn't build humanity up, it just gives him more proof of our own total irrelevance. His quest becomes this cursed enterprise, where the prize for winning the game of knowledge is the realization that you never ever mattered in the first place. The scholar is literally the architect of his own despair.
Just when you think the horror can't get any bigger, any more vast, the narrative does something absolutely brilliant. It pivots from the impossibly huge cosmos to something deeply, deeply personal.
This question is such a jarring turn, right? It just forces you to rethink everything. The threat isn't just out there, among all those indifferent stars. The story suggests the most terrifying possibility of all, that the horror has been in here the whole time.
And that's when the librarian makes his final, most horrifying discovery. Those ancient alien forces he's been reading about, they aren't just an external threat, they're a part of him. They're written into his very DNA. The human and the alien aren't separate things. They've been horrifically intertwined through deep, deep time.
And there's a name for this kind of intimate horror: biological dread. It is the unique and suffocating terror of realizing your own heritage. Your own body is the source of the nightmare. His research isn't about ancient history anymore. It's about his own biology. His very bones are the artifacts of an alien legacy left behind by the old ones.
This is it, the final chilling reversal. The librarian, the ultimate observer, the cataloger of all things. He can no longer stand apart from his subject. The objective scholar is gone, and in his place is a living specimen of the very horror he was trying to understand.
And so, we come to the conclusion. Armed with this unbearable, world-shattering knowledge, the librarian has to make a final choice. But it's not presented as an act of failure. No, it's framed as his last and maybe his most important academic contribution.
So his final act, burning his life's work, isn't a moment of madness. It's actually a logical, four-step process. This is his final thesis. He uncovered the absolute truth. He realized its horrific cost. And so he made a calculated, rational decision to protect the rest of us by choosing ignorance.
And this really defines the principle behind his action: merciful ignorance. In this universe, ignorance isn't a flaw, it's a shield. It's the only sustainable ecosystem for a fragile human mind. Because to truly know, to really hear the call, is to give up any right you have to exist in peace. The truth is so toxic that it destroys the container that holds it.
So what does this all mean? Let's pull back for our final section and really look at the true, chilling purpose of the library in this story.
Here's the core takeaway. The villain of this story isn't some tentacled monster. The villain is curiosity itself. The scholarly horror is the fundamental realization that the universe is not a puzzle waiting for us to solve it. It's a locked, dangerous machine, and we were never, ever meant to have the key.
And that leaves us with this final, haunting image. The library, once this beacon of enlightenment and hope, has been transformed. It's no longer a house of knowledge, it's a tomb. It's a memorial for those whose curiosity led them down a path to a truth they just couldn't survive.
And that leaves us with a really provocative question for our own world, doesn't it? In our relentless, incredible quest for knowledge, do we ever stop to ask if we're actually ready for the answers? If some truths are simply too vast, too terrible to bear, then maybe ignorance isn't a weakness, but a form of wisdom. Definitely something to think about.